We're older and wiser. For me, I'm more older than I am wiser, but now we...
Sure, I've gotten wiser. I just think I've gotten less aggressive.
Damn hazy IPAs. Coming to you deliriously live from the Beer to Whiskey studios on the taproom floor of Greenville Beer Exchange, or GBX as we like to call it. I'm Russ Heaps. Welcome to this episode of Big John in 5, where I get my good buddy here, Big John Richards, the beer whisperer at Beer to Whiskey, to pick a beer from one of GBX's 20 or more taps, or there are hundreds of cans and bottles that are in the retail store up front. We sniff them, we sip them, we kibitz about them. John gives us a little information on the brewery. Sometimes he gives us a little brewing history. And just as a disclaimer, GBX is open, if you can't tell. So there's a lot of background noise, and every time you hear the doorbell rings, it means somebody else is joining the fun.
Getting their beer wings.
Yes, joining the fun. So with all that foreplay out of the way, John, what are we doing?
Well, we're just lucky to be here, Russ. We're just lucky to be here.
We are.
We are doing, and lucky to have this beer, because this is a Trillium beer, and Trillium is one of those white whale beers that's just been impossible to get. And suddenly we've started getting some down in South Carolina somehow. So
where are they?
They're out of Boston. Boston. They're firmly Boston. They have a Fenway location, so they're
southeast. They're southeast.
I don't know if that's what that means.
I don't know either, but I just wanted to say southeast. Go ahead.
So these guys are only like 10 years old. They didn't open until 2013, but they've just become this huge force in craft beer because they're making great stuff. And
despite this being a hazy IPA.
Mission from God notwithstanding, I made this comment about another beer on my Beer of the Day Instagram, and I said, I may be on a mission from God to rid the world of hazy IPA, but this one can stay. Now this is a super fun beer. This is Congress Street, so this is their flagship IPA. Probably the beer they're most well known for, although that would be hard to really quantify, but Congress Street is what they call their flagship IPA, and it's multiple award winning, one of the beers that really helped define what New England IPA was going to be is
beautiful.
This.
It's a pretty beer.
It is a really pretty beer. It doesn't look, a lot of these when they get really cloudy like this look chunky.
Yeah.
And this one looks clean. It looks hazy. You can't see through it at all, but it looks clean. And that's what I want. What I've been preaching, the gospel of Big John is make beer taste like beer. Beer should taste like beer. And it should be balanced, and it should work, and it shouldn't be overpowered by any one thing.
Who can argue with beer should taste like beer?
Sometimes you.
Well, I have to be the contrarian in this little operation.
That's fair. But I'm really excited to put this one on.
Emphasis on little.
Let's not go down that rabbit hole today. So I'm very excited to get to try this. I don't remember for sure that I've ever had Congress Street before. I feel like there's no way I have escaped without having had it, but I don't remember it well enough to know what I'm getting into here, except that I already put my nose in it, so to speak. And man, the nose on it's just a ton of fun. It's sherbety. It's got that.
Yeah, it is. It's got a little.
It's
kind of a sweet thing going on.
It's got a bunch of peach and apricot, with pineapple, and those big like stone fruit, tropical flavors. some citrus playing around the edges, and that's just me sticking my nose in it once. So I'm really excited to taste it.
Well, let's do so.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Quit monkeying around. Text Miss Lily.
Kaboom.
Well, it tastes different than I expected it to. It is a little on the dry and bitter side.
Oh, that's what I was hoping for. No, that's precisely what I was hoping for, because it would be so easy for this to become a milkshake,
Right.
and nothing to balance it down. But there is a really clean, refining and refined hop bitterness that settles in on the very end. You get a ton of fruit right up front, and you get a far from, I was going to say it's an assault of fruit, but it's not. It is just a big wash of fruit flavors that hit you right at first. It's all clean. It seems to all kind of meld together in a way. It doesn't just taste like pineapple. It doesn't just taste like mango. It's
Right.
it's a bunch of different things going on at once. And then when it drops back into, there's a little bit of a pininess, a little bit of a grassiness, but I think it's more of like a resiny, piney thing for me, where the bitterness starts to set in, and then it drops. All the fruit drops away, and you're left with this really clean, dry, bitter finish on the end that just lingers perfectly. It doesn't grow. It's just there, and the balance on this is absolutely superb. Absolutely superb.
Yeah, I think the piney thing is the big. That's the big thing that I get.
Yeah.
And then there's a little hint of citrus for me on the finish.
I think the second sip for me was much more citrus than the first sip was.
Yeah.
This one came through much more lemony and grapefruity. The first sip came through with a ton more like peach and pineapple. And then there's that little piney bite right at the end. It doesn't really come off. A lot of it gets really Christmas tree. A lot of American IPA gets really Christmas tree.
Right.
And that, as a gin drinker, I have no trouble with that on its own merit. But this one doesn't assault you again with that flavor. It's just a little bit of a bite as it goes by. Then it leaves you with that sort of, there's like a little grapefruit peel, a little rindy sort of grapefruit peel bitterness on the finish, and a little bit of woodiness, and it's super clean.
I'm getting like grapefruit rind
Yeah.
now, right in the middle
Yep.
of the thing.
It's a fun beer.
It is, and it's a lot of hard work describing it because there's a lot of stuff going on.
A lot of stuff going on.
There's a
in there.
lot of stuff going on.
But that kind of beer, doing that kind of thing, is what made Trillium such a force in just 10 years of brewing.
Right. Every
That's
time
crazy.
I take a sip, it's different.
It's a little different.
It's a little
Yep.
different.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's really.
That's the way beer ought to be.
I don't know that I would drink more than about 10 ounces of this.
I don't know. It's so rare for me to get to the second beer a second time anyway. Hazy beer typically is not something that speaks to me.
Really?
I know.
I thought it doesn't. It speaks, but it doesn't say anything nice.
It yells at me and says
Yes.
mean things.
Yes,
That's correct.
It says mean things to you.
I could see myself drinking multiples of this, though. I just think the balance is so good on it, especially as a food beer. If I had this with like well, I'm going to make a lot of people mad here, but like a Hawaiian pizza.
Is that a thing?
Pineapple and ham. If I had this with pineapple and ham. Actually, there's a place next door to us up in Taylor's that does a Hawaiian barbecue. All they do is quesadillas. It's called Crazy Quesadilla. I think it's a franchise, but I don't really know. I just
Right.
know of this one. Sort of feels like a franchise, but they do a Hawaiian barbecue that's all pulled pork and this like sweet kind of honey, fruity honey glaze on it, and then it's got big hearty ham chunks in there and pineapple.
That sounds good to me.
It's freaking delicious, and that is what I'm craving with this beer.
Okay. ABV?
7.2. So
It's got a little kick.
A little kick. All the hazies tend to have a little more alcohol. Most of them, if you see a hazy under, well, actually, that trend is changing because we're getting some session hazies that are 5% now. But for a long time, hazy IPA was, if it was under
Sure.
6.8, you were, it tasted thin.
Right.
So this one's kind of that sweet spot for hazy, which is still kind of on the high end for what regular American IPA would be. But 7.2 is a good number. That's a number that it's enough to get your attention, but where you can still have a couple of them and
Right.
not, wind up on sleeping on the stove.
We've learned our lesson in doing these shoots because we will do anywhere between 8 and 10 shoots, 8 and 10 episodes in a shoot. And usually a couple of those episodes are whiskey or tequila or scotch or something. And we used to, when we started out, we would get pints of everything. Didn't matter whether it was 5% or 12%. We got pints, and we pretty much over the course of the day polished them off. Because
We did
once,
our best.
yeah, once the shoot,
That's, we're talking about a 10-hour day.
Yeah.
By the time we're all said and done.
but we finish up with the beers or finish up with the episode, and we'd put what was left of the beer on a table, and then when we were all done, we would just start working our way through them. And
Yeah.
we're older and wiser. For me, I'm more older than I am wiser, but now we.
Sure, I've gotten wiser. I just think I've gotten less aggressive.
Damn hazy IPAs. So damn lucky. See you next time.